That's a first for me. Okay.
You still got 10 more minutes.
Considering all you went through, the way you guys finished, what did you make of Graham Neff's assessment that last year did not meet expectations?
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah, I mean we're trying to make the NCAA tournament every year, right? I do think this, and I would ask you guys, how many teams do you think that made the tournament? I guess 2 years ago now, like we did in the COVID year with it, and then also went back this year. How many ACC teams you guys think did that? Obviously, the answer is small, right? 2. North Carolina and Virginia Tech. 2 years ago, Duke didn't make it. They weren't in the tournament, right? Virginia wasn't this year. My point to that is it's a little harder than most people think. I think everybody thinks it's like, it's a little disappointing with the league. The league was definitely good enough to get more than we got in, right? I mean, obviously, what do we have? 3 in the final 8, 2 in the, that knocked one of them knocked each other out in the final 4. It's just the narrative of college basketball now. It's the story. From the standpoint of however your league does in November and December. That's what's going to happen. Then you just play each other, so the story's already written, and it's not going to change much from that. So if your league doesn't do as well, it's going to be hard for your league to change and get more teams in the tournament. It's almost done. Like you already know you're only going to get 4 or 5, and if your league does great, you probably got a great chance to get 8 or 9. And that's hard, and I don't know if it's right, but it is what it is because when you have so much roster turnover, the November and December games, man, you're still trying to figure your team out. Like you don't know how good you are. Teams are way different in November and December sometimes than they are in February and March. But it doesn't matter because everything's equal. We don't do the last 12 games anymore. We don't have any ACC challenge games late. I don't know if that's something we should. It's kind of how college basketball has gone now, and so that's a tough deal. But our league was way better than it was perceived to be. And the point being, again, goes back to just like it's still really hard. It's not easy to make an NCAA tournament. There are more and more schools that pay their coaches a ton of money, that fly on private planes, their leagues are all being put on television, way more than in the old days, right, when you only used to have the high majors. It's changed it. All the schools that don't have football, that they put all their money into basketball, that's like in all their booster. It's a different deal. So there's a lot of people that look at the NCAA tournament and see what it can do for their school. There's a lot of people that really that's a high priority. And you better have alignment, you better have investment, and a lot of people do. And there's some schools that don't have the football that's an advantage in some ways. And so I say all that to say, yes, we want to do better than 10th in the league, and we're trying to make NCAA tournaments, as consistently as we can. But I also think some people don't. If you don't really look at college basketball, there a lot of people don't study it like they should. Like I don't think there'd be a lot of people that say we were 7th in the league in wins in the last 5 years in the regular season. I don't know, and it was 6th last year in the last 5 years. I think is what it was because I remember giving that stat. We dropped a little this year, only winning 8. That's not bad now. Like you're going to look at some schools below us. I think I actually got it right here. Louisville they're 1 game ahead of us. Louisville. So it's tough, but yes, I hear loud and clear from Graham, and I agree with it. And I want to be as good as we can be. I'm excited to hear that we're getting more and more resources for basketball and support and things. We're not going to shy away from expectations. I want to try to go to a Final Four here. And I think we've done a lot of things to get to this point in my tenure. And I think it's easy sometimes to forget about the first 7 years when we weren't in this building, or 6 years, whatever it was. And there's a couple years for 20, 22 months, we didn't have a building. It's pretty hard to recruit for a couple of those years when, hey, we can't show you anything. Here's a rendering. Do you believe us? We're over there with the dance team, the volleyball team, the women's team, our team, sharing lockers and stuff with the soccer teams. Like that, those were some tough years to have really good teams. Guys can't come in and shoot whenever they want. I mean, there were some disadvantages that happened those first 7 years, and I get it, but we got to this point. I've helped raise a lot of money in this program and create a lot of interest to help us have some of the facilities and things that we didn't have when I first got here. And I'm really proud of that. And I don't think that's been said enough by a lot of people. There's a lot of support with basketball financially, financial backers, as well as things that have happened to make this, to generate enough interest for us to have some things facility-wise that weren't here when I got here. And frankly, we had them at some of the mid-major schools that I was at. So and now we're in a good place. And I think the result of that is some of this. Like, that's why we've been better than, 7th, and we've made some NCAA in a Sweet 16. Now we need to do better, and we're trying, and our recruiting is trending up. And it has been ever since we've had these things. So again, the expectations, excited, not going to run away from that. And believe me, we're working every day with bigger goals in mind.
But you still need something from him or from the university?
No, not drastically. Obviously, the job just continues to change, right? I mean, it's wow. There's just a lot going on. I mean, April is like a disaster for head coaches, right? Like you don't know who's on your team, you don't know who's on your staff anymore. And I don't say that negative. Like I joke with everybody, like, hey, when we put our hand in here and say team, like, who really means it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's every school in the country. And because you get to a point where everybody's got to reassess and, like, what's the best situation for me? Is this it? Is there something else? But managing all of that, the anxiety, the ups and downs, every time you walk in your office, what's going to be next? You know what I mean? And that part has made it hard. And it's not easy to kind of put it all to plan on it. You want to try to plan to put things in place. You can see from the way I'm still recruiting, we signed 3 freshmen this year. We have 3 freshmen in this year's freshman class. We're bringing in 3 freshmen. Like, I still want to try to have as much culture as we can. I think our culture and what our program is about, and hey, there are guys leaving. There's going to be guys leaving and guys coming, but if we can keep a base together, our culture doesn't change drastically. And I think that's part of why our team we haven't had a bunch of losing seasons. We may not always be over here. We're in 3 out of 4 NCAA tournaments, but we also don't have 2 out of 3 losing seasons. We're right in the middle, man. And we're trying to get to where we're over here more. But part of that is our culture, us having kids that care. There's something that binds them together. There's something that keeps us, the messaging, we're going to keep fighting. We're not giving in. And it's those guys driving each other, holding each other accountable that, and then we're going to sprinkle in our transfers and do the things that we can do to try to have the best team for that year. But no, there's no drastic thing that we need that we don't have. There's always little things that you're trying to get better at. And again, college basketball is changing so much. Transfer, NIL, all that. I'm sure you guys will want to talk about all that at some point.
So if this program is going to get to that next level that you're talking about, what are the areas that need to improve in order for you guys to get there?
Yeah, it can be different in each year in terms of the basketball specific. Like you've got to have 1 or 2 all conference type players. Like, you've got to have that. Like so some of that can be recruiting, player development. Like, we've got to have guys that are difference makers that, because as much as everybody wants, hey, the coach makes this great play at an end of it's a lot of times it's a player making a play, right? That wins a game. I mean, a guy, I had deja vu when Caleb Love made the shot against Duke, right? The 3 that they come off the ball screen and the guy's up, but he's not quite up. And that happened to us, right? We're up 1 right here, against North Carolina, come down, ball screen, Chase gets hit. PJ's not quite up. Caleb Love, 3. They're up 2. We come back down, score. We throw it into PJ. He scores, tie game. They come down and, beat us at the buzzer on a late play with Manick diving on a back. Obviously, I'm reliving all this. You guys, it's not that it's still with me or anything, but my point is that wasn't – I love Hubert. He's a great coach, had a fantastic year. I'm really happy for him because he's a good guy. That was a player jumping up and making a play against Clemson and against Duke. It was a phenomenal shot by a phenomenal player. So we've got to consistently produce guys that are good enough to make those plays. And we've got to coach, like our team this year wasn't quite as good defensively as we needed to be, and some of that's on me, and I've got to do a better job.
With Jalen, can you just kind of take us through the process of evaluating and deciding who would be the
Well, we recruited Jalen a little bit out of high school, and so we knew, or we thought he would be a good college player. And we got involved some. I remember when I called him here just whenever to start recruiting him again, I said, hey, man, I still have your number in my phone, like from the last time. And I remember, Coach, I remember, all that. And so when you have kids that you like or connect with a little bit, or sometimes it gets to the end and then they go somewhere else or whatever happens, and we didn't really go all the way to the end with him. We were out after a while. But you still kind of peek at them, especially if they play well enough that you can see them. And he was a guy that was easy. I mean, he was a good player. And so it was easy to see that guy, was impactful. And, so we got involved and just tried to do a good job with it. And we did. And Coach Dean did a good job. And he and Jalen's father had a little bit of a prior relationship because they were together at Rhode Island for just a little while. And then, ironically, Jalen's father was at Wake Forest before that, and Jerry Wainwright, who I worked for at UNC Wilmington, was at Wake Forest when when Cordell was there. And so, a couple things that tie or two that you have a little bit, and then I tell you, they did their homework, man. They made a million calls and checked us out, and they called Amir and they called former players and reached out and had assistance, and we talked to all the Princeton guys, obviously, and just we're fortunate it worked out. He's a terrific player, but he's also a really bright young man. I'm excited.
You mentioned Coach Dean. Can you speak
Yeah.
about that and
Mhm.
how that happened and if you all brought it up?
No, not at all. I kind of was, knew it was probably going to happen. Antonio's did a great job for us. He was, outstanding assistant that has been here, I don't know, maybe 5 years now, and helped us recruit a lot of players, but helped develop players and good spirit. And, Mike called me yesterday. Right? I mean, I think it was yesterday. Was it yesterday? Just happened right away. And, you hear through the coaching grapevine things, and, hey, they need an Atlanta. You can kind of read the tea leaves. They're going to have to get an Atlanta guy, and there's only a couple of guys that are of Coach Dean's stature that are, from Atlanta that really are connected to a lot of different folks. And so, yeah, it was easy that he got called. Obviously, we tried to keep him as best we could. But I think he's from Atlanta. I think, the pull of coming home and trying to be a guy that kind of saves Georgia a little bit maybe, or resurrects Georgia with Mike. Mike's a good guy, good coach. Those things are pulls, right? I mean, and Antonio's also is very close with a bunch of the guys that have already been there as assistants. All the guys that have been there there's a bunch of those guys that all went to the same high school. It's kind of crazy. And so it's almost like now it's his shot, right? And it's a different deal, and so expected and happy for him, wish him well. And, he'll still be a good friend.
PJ said he hosted Llewellyn.
Yeah.
He's 1 for 1 as a recruiter. He'll be your closing act.
Is that how he?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. No, hey, he did a great job. All the team did. And you know what? That's a big part of it. Your players, recruiting other players is a huge part of recruiting. And Jalen really connected with our guys. He really liked our team, our players. And I think when you're an older guy, like, it's funny because it's like speed dating a little bit, right, with these grad transfers and older guys. And, like, with the young guys, I recruited PJ 2.5 years. You know what I mean? It's like, how much, what else can we talk about, right? Like, I mean, and these guys, it's like, it's just much faster, and they don't need all the song and dance. They're going to do their due diligence, and then it's like, hey, do you want to come or not? Because if not, we got to Zoom with another guy down the road here that we need to have, and you just kind of work through it fast. But Jalen was different for us because we'd recruited him before, and we knew right away, like, he was one we wanted. Like, there was no, like, we didn't need to watch anything. It's like, as soon as we know he's live, we're going,
You said y'all tried to keep Antonio.
Yeah, as much as you can. Like,
Was money?
I don't know. It might have been a little more money, but it wasn't. You'd have to ask. I don't know exactly why Antonio left, but I'm speculating on some of those things. Obviously, we talked about. I think is as much a pull to be home, right? I just think that's and a challenge that he was excited about.
I think on scholarships, a couple still. Is there anything in particular that you're hoping to
Yeah, we're probably going to look at a wing type player, but we have some versatility in our lineup, so we could do some different things if something really caught our eye. Jalen was the guy that was kind of the number one target from the start, in the position that had the most need. So yeah.
Do you need another point guard?
No, I don't think so. Josh Beadle, guys haven't seen Josh, but Josh is, we've been working with Josh on that. He's kind of a combo guard per se, and he's got good ability. He's 6'3", he's athletic. There's going to be some growing pains with a young player, but it's funny. I told people this, and I think this is interesting to think about. Obviously when I brought him in and told him at the beginning of the year, first thing is like, it's like, Coach probably doesn't think I'm very good, right? Like, I'm not good enough to play. And I told him, I said, Josh, think of it this way. Like, if I didn't think you were very good, it was, let's get started, right? Like, it doesn't matter, because once it goes bad, I just go to the portal and get a guy that's a junior. Like, it's the opposite. Like, if you redshirt a kid now, that shows how much you like them. Like, to keep them around. And even though I know you can't help me win one game this year, I still want to invest a scholarship in you and work with you because I believe in you down the road. And I've seen this happen with other players. And in 2 or 3 years, you got a chance to be a special player. And so it's really, and I told his mom and dad that it's really the coach is investing more in you when he thinks you're good enough to warrant a red shirt, because whenever it comes down to it, you can, like, you just go get a guy out of the portal, like, who's more experienced. So, but I don't want the kid to waste a year when he's going to play 60 minutes, So we're excited about Josh.
Did Nick or Al cut you off guard at all?
Not really.
How do you make sure that doesn't set you back, as Jalen helped fill some of that?
Yeah.
Talk about when they have the veteran guys and you just don't know.
Yeah, no, not really. Nick graduated. I think that's important. Nick graduated, and I knew that one would leave for sure, and possibly both could, and it just turned out that way, and that's okay. And I wish them both well, and I'm grateful that I got to coach them, and I think they did a lot of good things for us and helped us win a lot of games. And those guys were instrumental in our NCAA tournament team, So that's part of it. And then, part of the reason you get Jalen is because there's more available space. It does. You're not going to go get a really good player unless there's opportunity right away. So that worked into it too.
How do you, just a couple more.
Mm-hmm.
How do you envision Llewellyn's fit alongside Alex Hemingway and
Chase. Yeah, I think Jalen can do a lot of different things. He can be a point guard, but he can score 15 points a game. He's played in the Princeton system. We do some Princeton type things, and the Princeton system now is not. exactly like it was in the old Princeton game when everybody thinks Princeton basketball. I think we've all taken things off of that and used it to modernize basketball. You've seen it all the way up into the NBA. But he plays with the ball, without the ball. I think Chase is a guy that can play with the ball, without the ball. Alex a little more without the ball. So we feel like they fit well. And Josh is a guy that, is learning. He's had the ball in his hands probably more, learning to play without the ball some. And that's something we're trying to do with a guy like that. But I think that's what, Jalen is appealing because he can do a couple different things. And he's had big scoring games if you need him to score. He's had other games where he can get 6 assists if he needs to do that.
Right, there was a NIL collective announced last week.
Right.
Just from a recruiting standpoint, I guess what's your reaction to that? Does it help? And does it help you maybe be able to go after a different caliber of recruit than you think maybe you got?
Yeah, I don't know. Different caliber. I don't know. Like, it's necessary. That's part of what people are looking for now. The opportunity to build off their name, image, and likeness. And I think it's terrific that Clemson is. We have Clemson people that are trying to have put that together, and are going to be able to help the student athletes as they can. And I think it's kind of cool what they're doing with charities. I think that's really a neat piece. But no, it's definitely part of what's going on in the recruiting world right now. And if you don't have something of that nature, it could hurt you in some certain situations.
As far as looking to replace Antonio kind of time?
No, not. I mean, I'm not even. I mean, there's just so much going on right now, and it. Like I said, and you're trying to help coaches get jobs. Like other guys on my staff, we got guys trying to get jobs, do different things. Like it's kind of exciting in some ways. It's a little stressful for me, but that's like an obligation to certain guys in terms of trying to help them continue to advance. And I think sometimes people forget too, like, everybody has these coaches have families too, right? So everything's got to fit, right? Sometimes there's family dynamics involved in all these situations that, play into account with what's going on. And, but I'm in no rush right now. Obviously my phone's blowing up, ever since yesterday. So
What do you want?
I've got more friends than ever.
What do you want? What are you looking for to bring in?
You know what? I'm not. I don't know yet. Obviously, I want a really good guy with integrity who can coach and can recruit. Be a good role model for our players and interact with our players with relationships. Does he have to be 35? Can he be 55? Does he have to be black? Does he have to be white? Does he have to be from Atlanta? Does he have to be, he's got to be able to do his job. That's what he's got to be able to do. And there's and the crazy thing, like in my phone it's everything, right? There's former head coaches calling me. There's young assistants that are up and comers. There's, other guys that feel like they're in a tough situation, want to go somewhere new, fresh start, like excitement to come to the ACC. I think a lot of people see that, they think we have a chance to have a good team. And so there's my wife. Maybe she still wants to be a part of that. Thank God she's still calling.
Take one more for Coach.
When you talk about people who don't properly admire what y'all have done, you just talk about like a general sentiment.
Yeah, I just think that there's some, like I know when you're at a school for a long time, it's there's a lot of people in coaching, about 7 or 8 years, and you need to move on, and it's a little different. It doesn't feel that way. It feels that way to me because I know the first part of my tenure here, it was very choppy with things, and we didn't do as well, right? Part of that's on us, but there were other things that were going on that made it hard, and so I don't know. In some ways, maybe I've just, ever since we got into the new building, like I view it like my excitement and enthusiasm level is like with that whole thing. It was like and I had to win that year that we went to the Sweet 16. I was in, and that was fine because I thought we would, right? And I was confident in what we're doing. And I think it's more of just, I think when you look at things like in the recent 5 years or whatnot, like the product that we've put on the floor, there are a lot of people in this league that would like that. And that's part, I mean, the records show it. And even teams going to the tournament now. And it's funny, I've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. There's 5 teams that have been to 3 tournaments in the last 5 years. Now, you got to remember, we had a COVID year where nobody went. Right? We've been to 2. Somebody else has been to 2. Syracuse has been to 2. Miami's been to 2. Everybody else below that. So, like, there's an element of consistency that I am proud of. I'm proud of the fact that, like, we've probably overachieved a little bit compared to where we're picked sometimes, but I'm not satisfied or happy with like, I'm not happy being 17 and 16 and finishing 10th. We need to do better. But I do think there's an element that man, these dudes, like, we fight. We fight, and we have been pretty consistent in, like, I think that we have a lot of respect from a lot of people in our league. I know that. Coaches and players, and I think even some administrators. I know because I talk to some of them, that, like, guys do a good job. And, again, we're all trying to get to that next step, but that next step is really hard. That next step of, going to tournaments every other year and advancing, is tough. Everybody better be supporting of it. Now, the thing that I'm proud of is our program, I think that's what I'm trying to say too, is our program is getting to that point where we have enough in place to begin to do that. We haven't always had that, but the expectation is, if you're going to raise the level of expectations, you gotta meet it in every other thing. Your facilities, your salaries for your staff, your salaries for your coaches. If my assistants are 12th and we finish 9th and 8th and 7th, there's a lot there. There's a lot of things that go into all this. And I'm excited because Graham recognizes it. And Graham wants to be good. And Graham and I have been in the weeds together for a long time. And he and I have fought a lot of great battles together. And we don't always agree on everything. But he and I have a good relationship. And we can speak candidly with one another. And I know he's trying. Like, I know he wants to continue to help us and take our program to the next level, which is exciting as a coach. That's what you want. Anything else? No, thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, thank you.